Hi, Happy New Year, Happy 2026. It's been a minute, and I want to talk to you because I'm super stirred up about something that I read this morning. The Lord has me in Revelations, even though I'm still trying to finish my third pass through. He has interrupted that plan, even though I like to put check marks by things. But this is where he has me. And so I want to speak about Revelation chapter 12. Now, let me tell you, first of all, I am not. I'm not claiming to have any sort of hold or firm grasp on exactly what is happening here, but there are some things that I saw this morning, and in prayer time, the Lord couldn't have been more clear with what my assignment is, and I've been asking for clarity, and even though I keep getting little signs and little things, I think I'm just asking for too much clarity, and sometimes you just have to step out on faith. All right, so I am going to read you starting Revelation chapter 12, starting at verse 1, and we'll just see where this goes. A great sign appeared in heaven, a woman clothed with the sun, with the moon under her feet, and on her head a crown of 12 stars. She is pregnant, crying out in birth pains, in agony to give birth. Then another sign appeared in heaven, a great fiery red dragon that had seven heads and 10 horns, and 7 royal crowns on his heads. His tail sweeps away a third of the stars of heaven. It hurled them to the earth. Now the dragon stood before the woman who was about to give birth, so that whenever she gave birth, he might devour the child. And she gave birth to a son, a male child, who is to rule all the nations with an iron rod. And her child was snatched away to God and to his throne. Then the woman fled into the wilderness, where she has a place prepared by God so that they might take care of her for 1,260 days. All right. There's a lot going on here, and I think there's lots of different imagery in terms of time that is said. I read from chapters 12, I think, through chapter 15 today, and there's more time where it talks about 42 months. This number 1,260 days appears a few different times in my reading, and then 42 months appears a few times, and then at some point they talk about 3.5 days. When I looked into it, 42 months is actually 1,260 days, and 1,260 days actually ends up being about 3.5 years. So also later on in verse 14, it says, for a time, times, and a half a time. And I think, well, I know, because I do this, that we as believers, even unbelievers, we just get caught up with time. It is so loud. It is ticking, and we're trying to figure out, and if you're a believer and you're reading your Bible, you're trying to figure, okay, Lord, when is this time? And there have been lots of prophecies about when things are to come, but as we know, we are supposed to test the thing, and we will know people by their fruit. We will also know if those prophecies were real, whether they come to pass. And there have been a lot of false prophets out here. And I think the point, as much as we want to know, and I have been thinking a lot about Adam and Eve, and eating from the tree of knowledge of good and evil. And I recently was reading Proverbs and saw that, wisdom is compared to this tree. I would have to go back and figure out what proverb, where it was that I read that. And I was like, the tree of life, I think, was also a tree of wisdom. And instead of choosing wisdom, knowledge of good and evil was chosen. Like, if we take out and we stop thinking about just life, I can see this being applied to myself right now. I can see this being applied just culturally, how we are. We want knowledge quick, and we have so much knowledge at our fingertips that it's completely overwhelming. And we can go down rabbit holes and trying to consume so much knowledge. But there is wisdom. Wisdom is the difference between doing a soup that takes you 2 hours and a soup that is sitting and you're laboring over and simmering for a whole day. They taste very different. There are also going to be completely different benefits. Well, that's when you get fast knowledge versus long baked wisdom, right? So we're trying to figure out the time. I love in the TLV version appointed time, in Hebrew moedim. We're trying to figure out these times, and we're also trying to figure out, Lord, when is it my time for these things? These words that you have spoken over me, these promises that I'm reading in the Bible, when is my time, right? When you are pregnant, you have about 9.5 months, really about 10 months, until this baby that's being conceived, that's inside of your body, nurturing, kind of sucking your energy, making you feel kind of like poo-poo sometimes. But this amazing surprise, you're going to get to meet, see, begin to have this relationship, even though you're having a relationship already. But, you're just so excited about the arrival of this thing. It's like the arrival of this promise. And we get really sucked into that. But there's a time frame with that, right? Now, yes, we know things can deviate, kids come late, kids can come early, but there is a general time frame. So we are expectant of that. Well, I think that when the Lord is giving us these time frames, we are to remain expectant. The Lord sits above all things, all time. And a year to him could seem like a day. And so I think it's interesting how all of these numbers kind of, the relationship of these numbers, and we don't know, is it days, human days? Are these supernatural divine days? But what I see here is that this woman is given something to steward. Because when you're pregnant, your body, there's a lot of sacrifices that are made, and you protect this child. So she's given stewardship over something very great. And just at the time when, she's really in pain, and some of us know what this feels like, there is obstacle and opposition, and there is something that's threatening the life that's inside her that she's really, she's about to give birth to. But I want you to see here that though there was a plan for this dragon, that whenever she gave birth, he might devour the child, what we see here is that when her child was born, did come to fruition, what we see is that her child was snatched away to God and to his throne. And then the woman, because, in a way, the woman could have been like, okay, well, you're done doing the service. You are done with stewarding what you were asked to. No, the woman is taken care of. And she fled to the wilderness. I think that's also interesting when we look at the wilderness throughout the Bible. But she fled to the wilderness where she has a place prepared by God. God has prepared a place for that woman. So let me talk about what I see here in principle, and why this has me so stirred up, is that there are things that we are all pregnant with. And I mean that not just for the women folk, that the men folk are pregnant with something that God has given us. And there's a set time frame for those things. There's a set time frame from the pregnancy where that thing needs to be nurtured and spiritually fed. And there is also a set time for that thing to give birth. And I want you to know that opposition is going to come up when you are pregnant with a thing. And the closer you get to that due date, which you may or may not know, but the Lord knows, opposition is going to come harder and it's going to manifest. But that thing will be delivered if you have faith, if you faint not. That thing can be delivered. And once it's delivered, the Lord will be in charge of that thing. Our job is to steward it while it's inside of us and it's growing and it's nurturing, and to feed it the right things, spiritually nutrient dense things we're supposed to feed. And then once it's the due date, once that thing is born, the Lord will snatch it and the Lord will steward that. So if you're being called to speak the word of the Lord, to teach, to evangelize, to disciple, to read your Bible, to offer advice, to be present with somebody, any of these things, the weightier I can say the thing, the more unqualified you find yourself to be, the more you're going to delay. I'm talking to myself and about myself. The longer you will delay. But what's beautiful here is that I see that once she gave birth, the Lord stewarded that thing. So if the Lord is saying to start a podcast, if the Lord is saying to start a business, and these aren't necessarily all things that need to be done in the church or in a Christian context, if he's telling you to start this business, a secular business, do it, start it. Let the Lord, you be obedient to what the Lord is telling you, and then the Lord is going to take over. There's your part, and then there's his part. We like to think that everything is our part, and it is not. The Lord's going to steward that. And then once that thing comes in, once that thing is born, you've actually been obedient. You've done the thing. God isn't just done with you. There's a place prepared for you, not by angels, not by your own hands, but by God. And you're going to be taken care of so that they might take care of her for 1,260 days, whatever that means, for however long you need, because the Lord knows how long you need to recover. The Lord knows how long, the Lord just knows how long you need. And I really just love that for the season that I'm in. And I felt so comforted by that. I'm just gonna, telling myself, I'm not really great at sitting with things and just stewarding things in my heart, and I'm trying to get better at it. Where Daniel, I saw that Daniel did that. He pondered things in his heart. Mary pondered things in her heart, and I'm pondering things in my heart, but I'm a verbal processor. So I'm going to tell myself with this mandate that I feel like it's just confirming these words. I'm going through right now and going through the whole year of my journal, which the journal that I currently have, I started in the beginning of April. So I'm going through all of that and writing down all the words, some revelations, some dreams that I had. I'm writing them all down in a year reflection. I'm writing real tiny. And I've had several dreams that confirm this thing, but this morning when I was reading, and then when I prayed afterwards, something that I read in page 10 came back to me. So I want to say, Revelation chapter 10, then I saw another powerful angel coming down with a rainbow over his head. His face was like the sun, and his feet were like pillars of fire. He had in his hand a little scroll that was open. Sorry, I'm getting over this epic cold. And this stood out to me was that this scroll, first of all, it was little, and secondly, it was already open. In the beginning of Revelations, they're trying to figure out who is worthy to open the scroll, and no one's worthy. And John is weeping because Revelations is written by John, and he's weeping, and they're like, stop. The angel's like, stop weeping. there is someone who's worthy, the Lamb, right? The one who was and is to come. And, you know, they start opening the seals one by one. There are 7 seals. Sorry, I'm so stuffy. And I'm getting more and more stuffy as I'm speaking, so it's interesting. But verse 2, it says, he had in his hand, in this particular instance, this angel has in his hand a little scroll that was open. And verse 3 says, and he cried out with a loud voice. I need to make a commitment that the scroll that has been opened for me, I will cry out with a loud voice. And that's just my commitment. And so I'm putting that out here. I don't know what that's going to look like. I took a long hiatus. I made some videos, never posted them. Just sitting and processing what that looks like. But I know that when I do speak what's on my mind, the things that I'm seeing in the Bible, there is less stress on me. And so whether or not this is just for training purposes for me, whether or not this is going to, you know, anyone will ever watch these and eventually it will edify the body, I don't know. But this little scroll that has been opened for me, my commitment is that I will cry out with a loud voice. And even, I think more importantly than the volume per se, because the volume is just to meet more people, right? So that more people can hear, is the consistency. That's the thing that I struggle more with. So the consistency of crying out, of showing up, of doing that in whatever media, whatever facilitates that the best. At the end of chapter 10, verse 9 says, so I went to the angel telling him to give me the little scroll. Well, let me start in verse 7. It's like I have all these things highlighted, and then, so, you know, the angel opens up the scroll, these 7 thunders speak, but then specifically it says in verse 4, seal up what the 7 thunders have said, do not write it down. So in this particular instance, that what happened at that point isn't supposed to be said. Then it's told, hey, you need to eat the scroll. So verse 10 says, so I took the little scroll from the angel's hand and I ate it. And it was sweet as honey in my mouth. But when I had swallowed it, my stomach was made bitter. And then they tell me, you must prophesy again about many peoples and nations and tongues and kings. Well, you know, this is a specific instance, but the principle that I pull from this is that when you eat the scroll, when you're eating this book, when you are consuming this thing, often, consistently, diligently is a word that God gave me, and he keeps revealing to me and highlighting it for me. When you do this diligently, not perfectly, because it's never going to be perfect, but when you do this diligently, you have something to contribute. You have something to say. And God's words are sweet. And yet sometimes when you start really picking them apart and digesting them, especially when it's hard sayings, we need to speak the truth with kindness. It's going to be hard. Not everything is easy. There's lots of things in God's words that are difficult sayings. I was just talking to a pastor yesterday. The gospel is disruptive. We would love, and we prefer comfort. I prefer comfort. But when you sit with these things and you let this gospel, you can't be the same. And so the burden I feel is that to get people to read their Bibles cover to cover. Daily verses are wonderful. There's so many apps, there's so many things. I'm taking this class right now on the history of world Christianity to see how many people died to get this word to us in our native language. Is amazing how much they had to fight, and they were not perfect people. But the burden that they felt, that every person, not just the elite, should have access to the word like it was during, the Reformation, throughout history, but so that everyone would have access to the word. Why? Because the word changes you. The word impregnates you with something to come forth. It charges you, it burdens you, it reforms you, it conforms you, it renews you, it sustains you, it will redeem you, it will set you apart. So all of these things are hidden in this book that some of us don't read. Now here's the thing, if you read it once and you're like, that didn't do anything for me, read it again. Read it again. The Holy Spirit is the one who opens eyes, who opens ears, who makes the heart willing and able to apply. That's not on you. These are seeds, these words are seeds, and things come and things will grow from that. You can't scatter seed on good soil and have it not, but maybe our hearts are hardened. So keep reading. And for those parents who have children who are wanting them to be believers, keep believing for them. Also you do your thing consistently. You do your part. You nurture yourself with nutrient dense, spiritually dense food. You read, and what's going to come out of you is going to be different, and you're going to show up differently. And while right now everyone's thinking, well, most people in secular are thinking about resolutions, we as believers need to be praying to figure out, okay, what is it? Where are we? What do you want from me, Lord? Also reflecting. We don't do enough reflecting. We're so go. It's hard to reflect. It's hard to remember. That's why the Bible often says, remember, meditate. We have to reflect on the word to see where we've been, see the trajectory, because I know my memory is not as great as it used to be. But when I go back and I read my journals, I'm like, I see this consistent thread. So I implore you to start journaling. I was never a big fan of journaling, but journal so you can keep track of these things, and you'll be different. It will change your life to go back and see stuff, because we get focused on what is, and so we will forget some of the things in the past, or we think that things past, we recall things a little differently. Journal, keep track. And back to this pregnant woman, there is something that you have. There is something that is growing on the inside of you, that there is a due date. The Lord's words, God's words, have a timestamp to them. I recently found, when I got that revelation, that God's words come with a timestamp. So that thing, that word will come to pass at the appointed time. Not when you want it to necessarily, not when it's most convenient for you, but it will happen on God's time. And God's timing is perfect. Do what you need to do in this season as you're stewarding something inside of you. Eat what you need to eat. Let go of what you need to let go of. There's certain things that you can watch while you're pregnant. There's certain things that you can listen to. There's certain preparation. This time is of preparation. You don't just like find out you're pregnant and then just wait for the baby to come and then get the crib and then buy the thing. No. There's all these things that you play, because what? When God prepares a place for the woman's also in the natural. We prepare places for the baby to be. So there's lots of preparation here. I know I've gone on and on, and I'm stuffy. Thanks if you've watched the whole thing. If you have, I would say like, share, please comment. I am going to be very strategic about my social media, just because I don't want to get sucked in on it, but I do feel like I'm going to be posting more regularly and writing more blogs. And what I'm going to try to do is to do a video and have the blog be on that same topic. So yeah, thank you so much. I hope you are having a wonderful start to 2026. I got my kids to school on time today, so I feel like I'm winning. Have a wonderful day, and we'll talk soon. Bye.